lobbying President Trump for right now, which is to pardon Derek Chauvin, found a pattern of excessive force and discriminatory practices.
Minneapolis is serious about our commitment to police reform, even if the President of the United States is not.
I've got another CNN segment to jump into, this time covering a story I don't think is getting as much mainstream coverage as it should, as Trump ends to move discrimination training and reform in multiple police departments, as well as investigations into their racial discrimination. So buckle up, it's sure to get spicy. Leave us a like on the video if you can. It's free. It boosts our videos a ton in the algorithm, more than you could imagine. And let's see what context we can add.
The agreements, which are known as consent decrees, were implemented by the Biden Justice Department after it said it found a pattern of excessive force and discriminatory practices. The 2020 killings of George Floyd in Minneapolis and Breonna Taylor in Louisville, both at the hands of white police officers, spurred these investigations and also the reform efforts that followed. But the Trump Justice Department is now arguing that those reforms aren't in the public interest. The Justice Department's Civil Rights Division is also closing investigations into a half dozen other police departments around the country, as you can see here highlighted. My next source is the Minneapolis Mayor, Jacob Frey, and it's great to have you here, sir. How does your city plan to respond to this announcement from the Justice Department today?
Minneapolis is serious about our commitment to police reform, even if the President of the United States is not.
Which is what every state should do, is just ignore Trump, but it's detrimental to the ones who won't. Like, why should we allow police brutality to go on because a state won't fix it? The reforms in question, by the way, are changes to the use of force policies at these departments, like prohibiting placing a knee to the back of someone's neck, increased officer training with de-escalation tactics, and oversight, independent oversight of the police stations and their policies to analyze their programs have no racial disparities. Sounds like pretty common sense policies that anyone could get behind, especially given the racial disparities in policing, from black people being more likely to be pulled over. You can even see in like the Veil of Darkness study how at night, when you can't tell the skin color of someone driving, the rates even out. It's completely racially motivated. Black people are more likely to be wrongfully arrested, assaulted by cops, and fatally shot by the police. So reforming the areas that make these things possible while also investigating the departments that have high rates or instances of this happening, again, seems like the obvious answer. But to MAGA, it's dividing us on race and woke or something, because like we need to let cops beat the brown people so the whites can feel comfortable and happy.
He argued that these deals meant that local police were micromanaged and that complying with them had the price tag of potentially millions of dollars. Does she have a point at all with any of that?
No, she doesn't have a point. This is not about micromanaging police. It's about making sure that our police are complying with the law and that every interaction that they have on the street, they're treating people with dignity and respect. This is about making the policy shifts, making sure that police understand what those policy shifts are. It's about training, accountability, and then ultimately how people feel about the interaction they're having with the police force on the street.
I actually have a really good interview with Alex Avino, who rode around with cops for years researching things on this, but you have to understand the psychology of policing behind this, where from the police academy, they are taught a very much us against them mentality. You know, be ready to protect yourself at all costs or you'll become a victim. This includes being shown things like officer killings in their trainings to be like, hey, you know, this can happen to you, like be on watch, where I believe, and these reforms set out to somewhat address, is that training should be much more focused around being able to handle yourself and what you could perceive as a life or death situation, being able to de-escalate conflict, understanding that mental health will come into play, being able to analyze when it does, and to remove any underlying racial or gendered sexual bias that you might have. The cops shouldn't be something that any person in this country has to fear, especially not for an immutable characteristic like your skin color, your gender, or your sexuality.
We're just days away, and this is kind of hard to believe, from the 5-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. That'll be this Sunday. The administration has been arguing that what we're seeing today is not timed to that's not why, it's because of what's happening with court deadlines. I wonder, though, if you personally and your city are bracing for what some people on the far right are lobbying President Trump for right now, which is to pardon Derek Chauvin as he is serving this 22-year sentence for killing George Floyd.
Well, first off, give me a break. The Trump administration has had every opportunity to attempt to dismiss this consent decree in the months prior. They've had more than a few opportunities where they could have come forward and said, hey, you know what, we're not interested in going forward with a consent decree, we're going to dismiss it. They didn't do that. They asked for extension after extension, delay after delay, and of course, it's pure political theater, because that's all that Donald Trump cares about, that they would, of course, try to dismiss the same week as the 5th anniversary of George Floyd's murder.
It's all political theater, because you have to understand Trump, first and foremost, understands you have to be smart in the way you signal to the racist wing of your base. You can't come out in a white hood screaming the N-word, right? So instead, we get these unfounded claims of brown people committing genocide against whites. We have us being told that brown people are poisoning the blood of our country. We get reports of the possibility of a federal pardon for Derek Chauvin. We get the overturning of police reform sparked by the police brutality seen in the murder of George Floyd. It's all to appease those who will still go around saying things like, oh, George Floyd deserved it. Oh, systemic racism isn't real. George Floyd was like, whatever it may be, because they just want to deny any bit of racism or negative effects that black people might go through in this country based on the color of their skin. So they have more leadway to keep doing it. That's half the base. And then the other half of the base is like, well, to talk about the effects of systemic racism or the individualized racism that black people in this country go through every day, to attempt to remove this bias that is, one, inherent in human nature, but to remove it from our systems or to call it out where it exists is to divide us on race. So these two things together enables the racism that black people experience every single day. It's as simple as that.